There's a reason why a man can be completely devoted one week and distant the next. It's not always about another woman. It's not always about work, stress, or losing interest. Sometimes it's about three emotions, three powerful emotional triggers that make a man's mind retreat, even when he still cares about you. If you've ever felt that strange silence after days of closeness, that sudden change in tone, or that cold look that replaced warmth, this video will help you finally understand what's really happening inside his mind. Because when these three emotions are activated, even the most confident man begins to pull back, instinctively, quietly, and often without realizing why. And here's what's even more confusing. He might still love you. He might still think about you every day, but his emotions start working against his attraction. The same feelings that once made him chase you now make him hide from you. You see, men don't withdraw because they stop liking you. They withdraw because something inside them feels unsafe. Not physically unsafe, but emotionally cornered. A man's mind is wired to protect his sense of control, independence, and identity. When a woman, without realizing it, touches certain emotional wounds or fears, his instinct is to escape. It's not that he wants to disappear. It's that disappearing feels like the only way to regain balance. That's why so many women blame themselves, overthink every detail, and lose their own peace trying to fix what isn't even broken. The truth is, you didn't push him away. You just triggered something he didn't know how to handle. In the next few minutes, you'll see exactly what those three emotions are. You'll understand what they do to a man's psychology, and why even a simple message or gesture can awaken deep, hidden fears. But before we go deeper, I want you to remember something. When a man pulls away, your reaction determines whether he comes back stronger or vanishes for good. Because while these three emotions make him retreat, there are three opposite emotional states that make him come closer than ever before. Most women never learn this balance. They chase, explain, or demand clarity when silence would have spoken louder. They question their worth, when in truth, it's not about being enough. It's about understanding how the male mind protects itself from emotional overload. So if right now you feel confused, hurt, or ignored, stay with me until the end of this video. By the time we finish, you'll no longer see his silence as rejection. You'll see it as a reaction. And once you understand what truly triggers these emotional defenses, you'll know how to shift the entire dynamic without begging, chasing, or losing your dignity. Let's begin. I remember a story about a woman named Emily. She met a man who seemed different from anyone she'd ever known. He was kind, attentive, emotionally open. He wanted to know everything about her dreams, her childhood, the way she thought about life. In the beginning, everything felt natural. They talked for hours, laughed about nothing, shared secrets in the dark. He would text her good morning and call her just to say he missed her voice. She started to believe maybe finally this was what real love felt like. But then, little by little, something changed. He started replying slower. His voice lost that warmth she was used to. And when she asked if something was wrong, he said, "No, I'm just tired." But she could feel it, the distance growing like a quiet wall between them. She tried harder. She planned dates, sent long texts, tried to make him smile again. But the more she gave, the more he withdrew. And that's when the spiral began. The overthinking, the questions, the emotional chase. What she didn't realize was that the problem wasn't what she said or did. It was what her presence was starting to trigger inside him. You see, when a man begins to feel certain emotions he doesn't know how to process, his instinct isn't to talk about them, it's to escape them. And that's exactly what happened with Emily's boyfriend. At first, he loved how safe he felt with her, but over time, that safety became exposure. She started seeing sides of him he wasn't proud of, his insecurities, his fears, his weaknesses. When she looked at him with compassion, he didn't feel comforted. He felt small, because in a man's emotional logic, being seen too deeply can sometimes feel like losing control. So while Emily thought she was loving him the right way, he was silently fighting a battle inside himself, one between connection and self-protection. He wanted to be close, but something about the intensity of her care made him feel vulnerable. That's when the first emotional trigger appeared, fear of losing his sense of independence. He began to associate the relationship with pressure instead of peace. Not because she demanded too much, but because to his mind, closeness started to mean responsibility. When a man feels this fear, even small gestures, like asking where he's been or wanting to talk, can sound like control. He doesn't see a loving question. He sees a threat to his freedom, and instead of communicating, he distances himself to breathe again. Then, as she noticed his distance, Emily tried harder to prove her love. She thought maybe if she just reassured him, he'd open up again. But that's when the second emotion took over: guilt. He started feeling guilty for not being able to match her effort, guilty for disappointing her, guilty for being the reason she was sad. Men don't handle guilt the same way women do. While women often talk to release tension, men tend to pull away to avoid feeling like failures. And when guilt combines with the fear of being trapped, it becomes a cocktail of confusion that shuts down his affection almost completely. By the time the third emotion, shame, shows up, the distance is already visible. Shame makes him feel unworthy of your love, too imperfect to be fully accepted. So instead of letting you see his flaws, he disappears. And here's the cruel irony. Emily thought his silence meant he didn't care, but in reality he was trying to protect his image in her eyes. He didn't want her to see his weakness. He didn't want to be the man who failed her expectations. That's the moment most women reach their breaking point. They start chasing clarity, sending long messages, replaying every word, trying to understand what they did wrong, when the truth is, they didn't do anything wrong. They just activated deep emotional patterns that men themselves don't understand. And unless a woman knows how to respond when those emotions appear, she gets caught in an endless loop, giving more, while he gives less. Until one day she realizes she's been trying to save something that was never dying. It was just scared. When a man starts pulling away, it almost never happens overnight. It's a slow emotional process that begins deep inside his mind, long before you ever notice it in his words or actions. And it's almost always triggered by one of three emotions: fear, guilt, and shame. Let's start with the first one, fear. Fear is the root of almost every withdrawal you'll ever experience from a man, but not the kind of fear you imagine. He's not afraid of you. He's afraid of what being close to you makes him feel. You see, most men grow up being told to be strong, composed, and independent. They're taught that emotions are dangerous because they make them lose control. So when he meets a woman who awakens real feelings, deep connection, vulnerability, or even love, his instincts don't celebrate it. They panic. It's the same fear a man feels when he's standing on the edge of something meaningful. Part of him wants to jump in, but another part whispers, "What if I lose myself? What if I get hurt? What if she changes her mind later and I end up broken?" So when a woman begins to get emotionally close, he subconsciously tries to regain control. He might become distant, less affectionate, or suddenly too busy. It's not because he stopped caring. It's because caring too much feels dangerous to him. He equates closeness with risk and distance with safety. And here's what most women never realize. When you start chasing him during this stage, sending more texts, seeking reassurance, you unknowingly confirm his fear. He begins to associate love with pressure instead of peace. So the more he feels you chasing, the more he feels the need to run. Now, the second emotion that drives a man away is guilt. This one is subtle, but incredibly powerful. When a man senses that you're more invested emotionally than he is, something inside him starts to twist. He begins to feel like he's disappointing you, even if you never say it out loud. He'll notice the look in your eyes when he cancels plans. He'll sense your tone when he replies late. He'll feel your energy shift when he doesn't give you what you need emotionally. And every time it happens, the guilt grows. But instead of confronting it, he hides from it. Why? Because guilt makes him feel like a failure, and men are programmed to avoid feeling like failures at all costs. So he distances himself, not because he doesn't care, but because being around you reminds him of what he isn't doing right. This is why so many women think if he felt guilty, he'd try harder. But that's not how the male mind works. When a woman feels guilty, she wants to repair. When a man feels guilty, he wants to escape. Guilt tells him, "You're not enough for her," and rather than fight that thought, he withdraws to stop feeling it. He convinces himself that you deserve better. And sometimes, he even ends things, not out of anger, but out of quiet self-punishment. Then comes the third emotion, the one that kills connection more than any other: shame. Shame is the silent destroyer of relationships. It's deeper than guilt. If guilt says, "I did something wrong," shame says, "There's something wrong with me." And when a man feels that way, it's almost impossible for him to stay emotionally open. Maybe he feels he's not successful enough for you. Maybe he's comparing himself to your ex, your friends, or even your expectations. Or maybe you've seen sides of him, anger, insecurity, laziness that he wishes didn't exist. Shame doesn't make him pull away because he stops loving you. It makes him pull away because he doesn't feel worthy of being loved. And that's something most women never see. They see coldness, silence, or distance, but underneath all of it is a man drowning in his own emotional armor. He thinks, if she really knew who I am, she wouldn't stay. So he creates distance before you get the chance to confirm that fear. This is why it's so dangerous to take his withdrawal personally. It's not a rejection of you, it's protection of himself. He's not running from your love. He's running from what your love exposes, because love is a mirror. And the deeper you love a man, the clearer that mirror becomes. It reflects his insecurities, his fears, his old wounds, and not every man is ready to face that reflection. Now, here's the paradox. The more you try to prove your love, the less safe he feels. Because love that chases him only magnifies the emotions he's trying to escape. But when you become still, calm, and detached, not cold, but self-assured, something shifts. That space tells him, I'm not here to control you. I'm here because I choose to be. And slowly, his mind begins to relax. Because what terrifies a man isn't love, it's losing himself inside it. So the secret isn't to talk him out of his fears. It's to create an emotional environment where his fears have no reason to exist. An environment where he doesn't feel judged, analyzed, or demanded, just seen and accepted, exactly as he is. That's when he begins to reattach. That's when the man who once pulled away starts coming closer, because now your energy feels like home, not pressure. And when that happens, everything changes. Here's the harsh truth most women never hear. If you don't understand these three emotions, fear, guilt, and shame, you'll spend years repeating the same painful pattern with different men. It won't matter how beautiful, loyal, or loving you are, because when a man's emotional defenses are triggered, logic disappears. You could give him peace, laughter, and unconditional love, and he would still find a reason to pull away, not because of what you did, but because of what his mind feels when he's around you. And the moment you start reacting emotionally, sending long messages, asking for explanations, or trying to fix the distance, you fall right into the trap. Because the more you chase clarity, the more his subconscious labels you as unsafe. He doesn't think, she loves me and wants to understand. He thinks, she's trying to control me. And that tiny shift in perception changes everything. The relationship that once felt natural becomes heavy. Conversations that once flowed easily now feel forced. And every time you try to reconnect, he feels more pressure to step back. That's how distance grows. Not in loud fights, but in quiet moments when emotional safety breaks down. If you don't recognize what's happening early enough, it becomes a cycle. You feel him pulling away, so you try harder. He feels the pressure, so he hides further. You become anxious, start overanalyzing everything, and lose your sense of calm. He feels your anxiety and interprets it as judgment. And then, both of you end up lost in a dance of fear and silence. But the longer that dance goes on, the colder he becomes. Because once a man associates you with emotional tension instead of emotional peace, he starts disconnecting even from the good memories. He doesn't replay the moments of laughter or affection anymore. He replays the moments he felt misunderstood. And the more he rewrites the story in his mind, the harder it is for him to return emotionally. He begins to convince himself that walking away is the mature thing to do. He'll say he needs space. He'll say he's not ready. But what he really means is, I don't know how to feel safe with you anymore. That's why so many women end up in confusion. They wait for closure that never comes. They wait for a message that says, I'm sorry, I was scared. But it rarely happens. Because most men don't even realize what's going on inside them. They just know they feel uneasy, and they act on that feeling. They pull away to survive emotionally. And here's what makes this so urgent. If you respond from pain instead of understanding, you reinforce the very emotions that pushed him away. You'll make his fear stronger. You'll make his guilt heavier. You'll make his shame deeper. But when you do the opposite, when you respond from calm confidence, everything changes. Because silence from a woman who knows her worth is far more powerful than 1,000 emotional texts. It's that silence that makes him question himself instead of you. He begins to feel the emptiness he created, and for the first time he's the one wondering, what if I was wrong? That's the turning point. Because when a man's fear meets your composure, it collapses. When his guilt meets your grace, it dissolves. And when his shame meets your quiet self-respect, it transforms into admiration. But this only happens if you stay emotionally grounded. if you resist the urge to prove your love and instead embody peace. Because the truth is, men don't fall back in love through words. They fall back in love through energy, through the way you move, the way you respond, the way you no longer fight for what should flow naturally. When he sees that you've stopped chasing and started choosing yourself, something powerful awakens inside him. He realizes that your presence was never the problem. It was his own inability to handle what your presence made him feel. And once that realization hit, he starts missing you, not out of nostalgia, but out of respect. He starts wondering if he'll ever find that kind of peace again. That's why your reaction matters more than his silence. Because the next time a man pulls away, how you respond will decide whether he comes back emotionally stronger or disappears completely. The truth is, understanding these three emotions doesn't just help you with one man. It changes the way you see all men and the way you value yourself. Because once you realize that his distance is not a reflection of your worth, you stop begging for clarity and start embodying calm. You stop chasing explanations and start observing behavior. You stop fighting for space in his life and start honoring the peace in your own. Most women believe that connection comes from doing more, from talking more, proving more, showing more love. But real connection, especially with a man, doesn't come from more effort. It comes from emotional neutrality. It comes from being the woman who can feel deeply, but still stay centered. Because when you stop overreacting to his silence, he finally hears it. When he feels your calm detachment, his mind begins to shift. The same energy that once made him run now draws him back, because it feels rare, mature, and grounded. You become the emotional contrast he can't find anywhere else. And that's when he begins to realize something he couldn't see before. You were never too emotional. You were just emotionally aware. You weren't asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person to understand what you gave. But the moment you understand the male psychology behind these emotional triggers, you stop personalizing his reactions. You stop feeling like you need to earn his love or attention. You start to recognize when his behavior comes from fear, when it comes from guilt, and when it comes from shame. And you stop absorbing those emotions as if they're yours, because they never were. You didn't cause them, you just exposed them. Your love was a mirror and he wasn't ready to see his reflection. So what do you do now? You take your power back, not by controlling him, but by mastering your response. When he pulls away, don't follow. When he grows distant, don't demand closeness. When he becomes silent, don't fill the silence, let it echo. Let it work for you, because silence is not the absence of power. It's the presence of self-control. It's the moment when a woman reclaims her energy and stops trying to convince a man to see what he's not ready to face. And ironically, that's when most men begin to feel again. They feel the loss of your presence. They feel the peace you once brought. They feel the emotional safety that left with you. And slowly they start realizing what their fear, guilt, and shame made them destroy. But by then you'll already be standing stronger. You'll be wiser, calmer, more selective with your energy. You'll know that real attraction isn't built through persuasion. It's built through emotional balance, and maybe he'll come back, maybe he won't. But either way, you'll never chase someone again out of confusion or fear, because now you understand the deeper truth. When you master your emotions, you master every connection in your life. So, if you're watching this right now, take a deep breath and remember, his silence doesn't define you. His distance doesn't mean you lost. It just means you reached a depth he wasn't ready to swim in. Keep your peace, keep your power, and let every man who meets you feel what emotional maturity truly looks like. Because the woman who understands a man's mind is powerful. But the woman who understands her own emotions, that's the woman no man ever forgets.